Picture a fully grown silverback gorilla, 4 times your size, strong enough to bend steel bars, sitting in an enclosure. A toddler walks up to the glass, and that same gorilla, an animal capable of genuine violence, gently presses its massive hand against the glass to match the child's tiny palm. Zookeepers see this kind of thing constantly. Elephants that have trampled adult handlers will let a small child walk beneath their legs. Dogs that growl at grown men will lie completely still while a baby pulls their ears. Something is happening here that doesn't line up with how we usually think about size, threat, and danger. Why do so many animals, across so many species, seem to soften around children in a way they simply don't around adults? And here's the part that should really bother you. It's not one explanation. It's several, stacked on top of each other, and together they reveal something strange about how animals actually perceive us. Not as one uniform species, but as a spectrum of threat, and kids sit at the very bottom of it. Let's start with the most obvious variable, size. To a predator, or even to a large domesticated animal deciding whether to feel threatened, size is one of the fastest signals available. A 6-foot adult reads as a competitor, a potential threat, sometimes even a potential predator itself. A 3-foot child reads as something else entirely, smaller, weaker, obviously non-threatening in a physical confrontation sense. Animals that evolve to size up threats in a split second, biologically speaking, built to notice this. But here's where it gets interesting, because smaller and weaker should also mean easier prey, right? In the wild, among actual predators, it often does. Wolves and big cats target the young, the small, and the vulnerable specifically because they are easier kills. So size alone can't be the full answer, because it cuts both ways. Something else has to be tipping the scale toward trust instead of predation. That something else is behavior. And this is where children are doing something without even realizing it. Adult humans, almost universally, hold prolonged eye contact. We stare when we're curious. We stare when we're assessing. We stare when we're establishing dominance in a conversation. Across the animal kingdom, sustained direct eye contact is one of the oldest threat signals there is. Predators lock eyes before they strike. Rival animals stare each other down before confrontation. Children do this far less. Their attention flits, their gaze wanders, they look away, look back, get distracted by something shiny on the ground mid-interaction. To an animal wired to read sustained eye contact as aggression or challenge, a child's scattered attention doesn't register as a threat display at all. It reads as disinterest, as non-confrontation, sometimes even as submission. You are, without meaning to, constantly signaling, I am not challenging you just by being bad at paying attention. Then there's movement, and this one is subtle. Adults move with purpose. We walk in straight, efficient lines toward specific goals, which, to a wary animal, can look a lot like stalking behavior, a direct approach with clear intent. Children move erratically, sure, but crucially, not toward the animal with focused intent. They wander, they stop, they spin around chasing a butterfly, they lose interest and change direction for no reason. Predators and prey alike have spent millions of years learning to distinguish between purposeful, threat-oriented movement and random, aimless movement. A child's chaos genuinely looks less like a hunting approach and more like background noise. It's not that children are less noticeable. It's that their movement doesn't fit the pattern an animal's brain is scanning for. Now let's talk about sound, because this might be the most consistently underrated factor. Children's voices sit in a dramatically higher pitch range than adult voices, closer in some ways to the distress calls and vocalizations of young animals across many species. Researchers studying interspecies communication have long noted that many animals respond to high-pitched sounds with something closer to caregiving instincts rather than alarm, because in nature, high-pitched vocalizations are overwhelmingly associated with juveniles, their own offspring, vulnerable young that trigger protective rather than defensive responses. A deep adult voice can sound commanding, or in the wrong context, threatening. A child's voice, structurally, sounds a lot more like something that needs protecting than something that poses danger. Some animals may be responding to children the same instinctive way they'd respond to any small, high-pitched, vulnerable creature in their environment, not as a threat to neutralize, but as something closer to their own young. There's also a scent component that's easy to overlook because we can't perceive it ourselves. Human body chemistry shifts dramatically with age. Hormonal signatures, sweat composition, even the bacterial makeup of our skin changes as we go through puberty and into adulthood. Animals with powerful olfactory systems, dogs especially, are almost certainly picking up on some version of this difference, even if science hasn't fully mapped out exactly which compounds matter most. Whatever the precise chemistry, a child simply doesn't smell like an adult. And for an animal that navigates the world nose first, that difference alone might be enough to file children into an entirely separate mental category. And finally, there's history. Thousands of years of domestication didn't just shape how dogs and other animals behave around humans in general. It shaped how they behave around human young specifically. Because for a domesticated animal living inside human social structures, children often occupy something like the position of the group's juveniles. Lower in the social hierarchy, less threatening, sometimes worth protecting the same way you'd protect a puppy or calf. Many domesticated species seem to extend their instinct to be gentle with their own young to the young of the humans they live alongside. Put all of this together and you get a genuinely strange picture. It's not that any single animal consciously thinks, this is a child, therefore safe. It's that every individual signal a child gives off, the size, the eye contact, the movement, the pitch of their voice, even their scent, independently points away from threat and toward vulnerability worth protecting rather than danger worth avoiding. Adults trigger a completely different bundle of signals almost by default. So the next time you see a massive dog lying patiently while a toddler climbs on it, understand that you're not watching a fluke. You're watching an animal read a set of signals it's been interpreting for its entire evolutionary history, and concluding, correctly, that this particular human isn't a threat at all.